Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game and Frame's preseason coverage of the Spring 22 Cosmopolitan League season, here with the head coach of New York International, Gary Philpott. High-flying team in Division II, one of the, I would argue, most high-flying teams in the Cosmopolitan League system over the last couple seasons. Gary, thank you so much for talking to us.
Nice one, yeah, obviously. Thanks for inviting me on to chat about the team and chat how we're doing and all that, yeah.
Absolutely. So let's start with a little bit of background on New York International. I think I first saw you guys last season when you were doing the Division III. I guess it was the title game. I remember seeing just the big tent and everything seemed so professional and set up. And I was like, I don't recall seeing these guys anywhere. And then, I've had more exposure to you guys over Twitter now, and it just seems to be such a well-run operation. You've had back-to-back seasons of promotions and titles, and you're on the cusp of getting promoted into Division I this season. So talk to me a little bit about New York International. What's the philosophy of the club? What is keeping you guys going?
So obviously we're, like you mentioned, right, back-to-back promotions. We're 2 years old. And, you mentioned it as well, right? Just kind of like about how we're set up on game day, the tent, everything looks brilliant. And, it's not just aesthetics, right? Kind of a lot of hard work goes into that in the background. The board we have, the team we have, everybody has kind of a role and responsibility and kind of, you mentioned it, right? Look, professional, the setup, everything we do is meticulous in preparation, right? Planning how we're doing things. Obviously, the social media side of things, there's a lot of fluff, right? A lot of aesthetic stuff, that branding stuff, but whatever. But it's kind of whatever we do is, it's a proper preparation. There's, we're approaching it like we're a professional outfit, even though, we're only training a couple of times a week, or we don't have the cash like a professional team. But everything is standards are set. You know what I mean? Like, there's no half measures with anything. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it all in. So yeah, it's basically, there's no real secret to the success or why we're doing, as well as we are. It's just passion and hard work, basically. Like, we show up. If we're going to say we're going to do something, we go and do it, and not just on the football side. Kind of the background side of things, how we run the club with our permits, our cash flow. Everything is prepared meticulously. So, it's just a proper setup.
Now, I saw on Twitter, I guess it was during one of the Cosmopolitan League meetings, someone had renamed themselves New York International Tweets Too Much. I'm just curious, what has the reception been to New York International since joining the Cosmopolitan League? Because, back-to-back promotions, you guys have been making a lot of noise. You guys are going into this, you've dove fully in, you've shown that you have aspirations to go higher. So how have you felt like you've been received by, I guess, the old guard of the Cosmopolitan League?
Look, the community in New York football has been brilliant. You know what I mean? And I think, look, there's two sides of New York International. Right? There's who we are on the field. And look, for 90 minutes, we'll probably try and kick lumps out of you. And, it's a battle, and we're there to battle. You know what I mean? We'll win. So I'm sure some of the old guards, didn't like these young boys coming in and, being aggressive and physical and just like a winning mentality, right? But outside of that, it's been magnificent. And you know what I mean? That's our kind of on-field presence. But off the field, I feel we're a big part of the community. We've been opened, welcomed with open hands. I remember when we were starting, a couple of lads from Shamrocks, Rob O'Neill, was like, he kind of supported me, go get it, gave me good words of advice, and was also like, if you need help with anything, set up, sponsorship, just let me know, so, and I feel like as well, kind of, again, we're new, right? But, a lot of teams has reached out to us in terms of like, hey, where did you get that banner? Like, where did you get your veil? How did you do this? It's social media. And we've always been an open book because, it's not just about us getting ahead and leaving everyone behind. We want to inspire other teams, right, to want to do what we're doing. Or, there's no hiding the secrets on what we're doing. We're an open book. So I feel like we've been pretty open with everybody too. So in return, we've kind of received the love, so, we've just been a part of the football community, so I feel like it's been brilliant, people have, obviously there'll be some kind of naysayers along the way, but like, that's just part of competition. You know what I mean? There's no bad blood in it. Everybody wants to win trophies, be the best, be this. So you're going to have a little bumps, but I feel, open arms completely.
So talk to me about Gary Philpott football. If you had to boil down your footballing philosophy, the style of play that you want New York International to be playing on a week in and week out basis, what does that look like on the pitch?
I mean, for me, right? So my background is, I was a goalkeeper throughout my whole career. I played with Cork City in Ireland for about 6 years. So for me, being that position and kind of seeing the game from my perspective through the years, right? It's all about just simplicity, organization, and being a unit, right? So without going into too much kind of football tactics and philosophy, obviously, as a young coach, I'm kind of developing that side of things. I'm going through my licensing and kind of education anyway. So, not to give too much away on that, but simplicity. Football's a very, very simple game made, complicated by people that shouldn't be playing or doing it, certain ways. Like it's basically, you pass to the same fella in the same colour shirt as you, right? If they have the ball or if we have the ball, they can't score. Very, very simple stuff. Basic simplicity, keeping it, kind of, I guess, just, and especially as well from the goalkeeper side of things, right? We're an organisation. We move as a unit. We operate as a team. There's no individuals. Obviously you'd have your star players that'll kind of go and win your games and this and that, but everybody works hard, right? There's no secret, You cross the line. First off is the mentality. You're going out there to win. We're not just showing up because it's like, we're having a game of ball. You can go join Zog Sports or one of those leagues, but everybody is a mindset that we can do these things, but we also fight for each other. So, we're just kind of, again, without going into football philosophy and this and that, it's just, keep it simple. We work hard and we move as a unit.
So with your background at Cork City and I guess playing at a very high level, how is the level of the Cosmopolitan League and I guess the footballing structure in New York City? Are you impressed by the league itself? Have you seen good development out of it? What are your takeaways from the Cosmopolitan League?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, again, growing up in Ireland, it's kind of all you live, right? And you think, you come to America, it's just going to be like New York football. But obviously, I'm sure you're aware, there's all like the different communities, right? Your Bosnian teams, your Irish teams, your Ukrainian teams. So these are all like football mad cultures, and a lot of them are immigrants. I'd say 90% of the league are immigrants. So the standard are people who grew up like I grew up in their countries, playing every day and kind of, so definitely, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I was surprised. I didn't really have any expectations coming into it, but for sure, kind of, in D2 this year, the standard is pretty great. The level is good. There's people who can play ball, there's physicality. But then as well, you have some teams there that are coached well. There's teams that are actually, I guess one of the things that we do at New York International with preparation is, we're studying, we're implementing styles, game plans every week in training, how we're going to set up against this. And, I feel like I've watched other coaches kind of try and set up against us for certain things to try and, implement theirs. So, yeah, I think people take it seriously. And, in the matter when you're putting that, time and energy into it, you're going to have good standard and competitive games,
So you guys are coming off of back-to-back promotions, going from the Metropolitan Division up to Division 3 and now up to Division 2, and transitioning into this fall season. You guys are sat right now with, you have a game in hand going into the fall season. You guys are right outside of the promotion playoff spots. Talk to me about the start of this fall season, because I know you guys had a bit of a rough start. You had that 2-0 loss against NYPD, but you really started to pick it up as the season went along. So how do you feel that fall season, that first shot into D2 was for you guys?
I think it was the best thing that happened to us, actually. That first game, because, it's good to be humble sometimes. You know what I mean? It kind of, with your expectations, obviously we set clear expectations at the start of the season of what we wanted to achieve. And, kind of coming from a season prior to, we played 20 games, we won 19 of them. We were kind of, and the one game that we lost, we were already into the playoffs. So we kind of, it was a weaker side, we low numbers, kind of, we didn't take it as serious. So to kind of, obviously, all our preparations in pre-season, right? I think we did a 12-week pre-season, and then we come into the first game and we lost to a team, they played well, of good players, and we just didn't show up. I think maybe it was, first day nerves, kind of this and that. but it was great to kind of actually just say like, hey lads, look, this is what we're up against. Either we need to turn this around and accept the challenge of what we need to do. It's not going to be a good season for us. So I think it kind of just, gives a kick up the ass, you know what I mean? And as well, there's a few difficulties, kind of with, it was just that timing where everybody happened to get injured, so for that first game, and again, with just some of the kind of workings of fielding a reserve team for the first time, how do we split up the numbers, one club philosophy implementing across both teams. And, for that first day, I think we'd only 12 players per squad. So for us, typically come from D3, where we've 19, 20 on game days, it was a bit of a learning experience for us how to use our resources as a club for the first time growing. So I think the fall season, to sum it up, would be, we definitely learned a lot. The football has been magnificent throughout. There's a couple of games that we dropped points that realistically we shouldn't have, but we learned from it. And then, we went on a couple of runs, 4 or 5 game winning streak, and then kind of finished it. Obviously beat the top team CPR, which realistically they didn't have much for us on the day. So, all these little setbacks, made us stronger, and kind of obviously facing that adversity, kind of realizing, look, this isn't a daddle, like, the team we beat in D3 last year, you're going to have a bit more physicality, a bit more athleticism, we got to go that extra mile. We're not just going to show up and beat teams, right? So I think it was brilliant, actually. A good little wake-up call for everyone, and fair play to the lads, like, they took it on, and that's the best thing about this team, right? Just like the winning mindset, like the sadness in people's faces leaving, but then they showed up to work in the next week, like hungrier more than ever. So, learning curve, a few bumps along the way, but that's expected. We're 2 years old, and, we're back-to-back promotion. I think people didn't expect us to do so well in D2, but we now have that fall season of experience to now just help us, jog on for the spring season.
And talk about that transition into, having to field that reserve side. Because like you said, you're used to having 19, 20 guys out now, but now you have the ability to field 2 separate teams. And like you said, you're trying to build a philosophy across the 2 of them. Do you feel like it's created, more competition for spaces in the first team? Or do you feel it's just giving you more opportunity for a little bit of plug and play and more opportunity to develop guys, maybe not on the highest level, or put pressure on guys to feel like they need to perform in the first team?
No, I mean, my philosophy is you're only as good as your last game. So, the point of a reserve team is, and I know there's a lot of teams in the Cosmos, because of the requirement, that they just put a reserve team together, and it's like, you just stay over there, and it's just because it's a requirement, right? But for us, it's a one club philosophy in terms of football, right? First and reserves train together all the time. So I'm coaching, obviously with a coach, Ian Goodall, and a player who moved back to England. So I'm the reserves manager, Chris Minty. So everybody, the session objective, the goal for the weekend, the goal of kind of our periodization and how we're doing our 12-week coaching plan, right? It's applied to both teams. So in training, there's no first reserves, there's no nothing. And then we release squads on Thursday, Friday, depending on availability of who's going to be playing where. So if somebody in the reserves is doing well and he's pushing for a spot, and somebody's not playing well or really interested, then he'll take a spot. It's competition for places. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, it's not just a plug and play and fill a few gaps. It's we're bringing people in that want to be here, want to get better, want to win trophies, and are hungry. So obviously, there's going to be specific roles for certain types of players where, they might be the most talented or skillful, but they're a hard worker, and that's the person that you over the line when the individual. So no, it's tournament. It keeps people hungry. So it keeps people on their toes. Yeah.
So we'll get into, I guess, the heavier part of this interview. Late on in the season, the tragic passing of the VGD, and the outpouring that came out from the New York City soccer community. You guys, it was late on in the season, a match got postponed for it, and the community really we saw a lot of outpouring of support coming for you guys. I mean, as a club, I can't imagine dealing with that, tragic of a loss. But I guess if you can touch on a little bit of, what David meant to the club, and just how much this, if this season is going to be in his honor.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely heartbreaking. First as a friend, and obviously a teammate, club member, all that, right? But yeah, the love and support we got from the football community, right, in New York. And again, you mentioned it, how did people react or receive us? And I didn't expect the amount of love and messages we received. Like every time I'm on Randall's now on a Sunday, strangers are coming up to me and be like, "Hey, look, I just wanted to, say sorry for Davide and your loss, and I hope you're doing all right." And that's pretty special. You know what I mean? That's pretty magic. Davide was a massive part of the club. Kind of where we came from. He was a part of the furniture basically, and he was one of the original members of us setting up. So I don't know if you know, but we broke away from Beyond FC, who were in the first division. Division 1. So we were the Metro team at the time, right? Well, when I came in and took over, with a coach, Ali Reza, who had to leave. So I just kind of started taking over and kind of recruit my own players. And Davide was part of that squad back then. So then when we decided to branch off and set up our own club, he was one of the first people to sign. So he helped us kind of, set the standards in training the first season. A lot of new lads coming in. He's a part of the culture, everything that kind of we stand for and embody, So yeah, just major blow, kind of heartbreaking. But like I said, because David is no longer with us, it doesn't mean that he's no longer with the club. And like I said, when you're part of the setup of something and kind of the culture and environment, that still lives today. Whether he's here or not. When we go to training or a match day and people show up an hour and a half before the game, and the warm-up's done, the plan is everything. He helped set all those standards and help us grow that club that way. So that still lives on, with him. So in terms of playing for him for the rest of the season, I mean, it's Davide was as an Italian defender, and I'm sure you can imagine, right, passionate. He had that mindset as well of winning. So it would be a failure to ourselves and a failure to him if we didn't want to go and try and go and win everything for him. I mean, that's the case anyway. But now it just makes it that bit more special to go and honour him for it. Absolutely, yeah.
So let's transition. We'll go into this spring season. You're in your preseason setup right now. Should we be expecting any new faces at New York International going into the spring season? And are we having any shakeups?
Yeah, a lot actually. But not new players. So new faces on the field, meaning. So I kind of touched on it a little bit. Kind of just the growing pains of the fall season, right? It was down to, I remember we were joking about it on kind of like the coaching staff and kind of the board. At one point, kind of, it was like our second or third game in. I think our second game, we had 14 on the injury list. So we'd done all this like 12-week preseason. We recruited. We'd everything, kind of the preparation was done. And next thing, like, lad does his Achilles, broken foot, broken this. And 2 weeks into the season, there was 14 players on the injury list for like 4 weeks or longer. So that was kind of a big blip in the fall season. That kind of, there was no consistency in the team. So in the first team, we never had the same back four, right? We never had the same midfield, and we never had the same kind of. I think we did the combination of how many partnerships worked throughout both teams, and it was just through the roof, right? So the shake-up is all those people now that were hurt. Some people were out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Some people were longer term. Some people had like 3 or 4 week niggles. We were training there now last week, and we looked at that list, and I'd say about 90% of that list is back. So the success kind of we had, and again, I know it was kind of, there was a few blips here and there, but I'd look at it as a success because we learned from it and we kind of got to learn about the standard. But now all those people and those moving parts that we kind of were expecting to use are now back. So we're going to go in even stronger than we did in the fall side. Yeah.
And you've got a pretty jam-packed start to the season. You guys play on the 20th against FC Japan in that postponed match, and then I believe we talked to New York Ukrainians earlier today, and they mentioned that they play you in the first couple games too. So already two pretty major clashes in the first couple weeks. So what is it going to take to get New York International into Division One going into next season?
Listen, it's the games will take care of themselves. It's the work leading up to it, but it's just one game at a time. You know what I mean? Obviously, we've clear objectives, and that objective is to get into D1. We said that back in July when we started our pre-season. And I set the expectations for all the new lads coming in. This is the goal. But it's just one game at a time, right? We've a game first on the weekend against Desportiva in the League Cup. So if we want to win that group to get into the semi-final of the League Cup, we've got to beat them by 3 goals or more. So it's just one game at a time, you know what I mean? And the hard work, right? Again, a lot of the lads, the best group of lads I've ever been with in terms of like passion, the mentality, the mindset, they show up to work. So what's going to take is there's no master plan. It's just we're training last night, show up to training, put in the work, and then on the weekend make yourself available. If you're not, everybody's wives, kids' lives, that's fine, right? But we've a depth now of the squad. Show up to work and show up with the mindset that you're coming here to win, and the rest will take care of itself.
I had seen the result against Shamrock, and I was going to ask you, now that you are doing this Kilby Cup run, I mean, what would a deep cup run mean for this team? It's another front to fight on in an already congested D2 standings. Are you worried at all about fighting on two fronts, or is it just something that's going to drive you guys even further to put in that work, week in and week out?
No, so obviously, typically we'd have our own pre-season anyway, we start back in January. February is typically we play 4 games, friendlies, and then right into the March to kind of keep us running. So typically the League Cup would start in March, kind of when the season starts. But over the last 2 seasons, they've started in January. So last season we didn't enter it because we were just a few lads were away and we didn't want to go into a cup without full resources. And so we went into this, obviously kind of replacing our pre-season friendly schedule that we do in February. So a lot of it will be done anyway by the time we get rolling in March anyway. So it's kind of replacing those. Obviously, again, we don't take pre-season friendlies as their friendlies anyway. It's, again, there's competition for places. People are coming in, trying to, impress and, secure their spot in the team, right? So, no, I mean, realistically, so if we win if we get through on Sunday, so we're straight into the semi-finals. So, I mean, we got young, fit, strong lads, so it's not too much. And obviously the chance of more silverware, that's, you can't get enough of that,
So if you were to have one match for this spring season circled on your calendar, is there any match this season that you're really just aching to play, any opposition that you just, really want to get one over on? Or is it just, every match is the next match?
Every match is the next match, right? I don't know, but that's, a kind of a boring answer, realistically. If you were to ask me personally, as a coach, obviously, you got to keep the lads centered and focused on the next thing. But I don't like losing, and we dropped points, and we'll have to go and right that wrong. So obviously those ones you're kind of looking forward to kind of fixing some of the things kind of early on that you didn't do and kind of where we could have done better and just developing and improving, right? So absolutely, yeah, those ones. I mean, again, when you're talking about how close the league is, right? And this is why we started this club. We want to be in big football games. We want to be in finals. We want to be in title challenges. We want to be in every game is a win type game. So we're in that situation. So, I mean, obviously, I love having a go at the top boys. I love nothing better than that. So we're coming for them too. But yeah, every game counts.
So if at the end of the season it's 3 promotions in 3 years, obviously it's not job done, but just how far do you feel that New York International can go?
I mean, there's no limit to it. Like, there's really not. Why not? Why settle for just, all right, yeah, we're in D1 now. Let's take the foot off the pedal. Not a chance. Like, never. You know, there's a lot of clubs out there that go into D1 and they're just, all right, we're cool. It's a status thing. Like, in the day, you got to show up on Sunday and play football games. If you're losing football games, I mean, what are we doing it for? You know what I mean? So yeah, look, if we go into D1, and obviously that'll probably be a tougher league in transition, you know, but the goal then is to go and win that eventually. And obviously with that becomes promotion to EPSL and this. So yeah, there's no limit to it. EPSL, who knows what happens in the US pyramid down the years or this or that. But obviously it's, you know, the short-term and long-term goals in terms of what we're doing. And, you know, before we can get there, you know, one foot in front of the other.
Gary Philpott, head coach of New York International, thank you so much for having a chat with us. We're looking forward to seeing you going into the spring.
Nice one. Totally enjoyed it.